Welcome to Food Shrinks.
Hey, team. It's a really exciting day. It's the first episode of Food Shrinks. Welcome, 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 welcome. We are your hosts. We are three food addiction therapists and really, really good friends here to share our personal journeys, our professional journeys, our personal thoughts, and most importantly, our professional and friend thoughts when it comes to all things recovering from eating disorders and addictions. I'm Molly Carmel. I'm here with my dear, dear friends, Clarissa Kennedy and Molly Painschab. And how psyched are we?
I'm so psyched.
So psyched.
Been looking forward to this day for months, it feels like.
Definitely.
Yeah, I know. And you know, the funny thing is, the goalposts have just been going and going and going. And so we've been trying to do this for a long time. My decision is that there is divine energy today.
Yes. Today is the day.
Today's the day. So we are really committed to getting into like the nitty gritty of our lives and our thoughts and just like, showing you how recovery's done, getting into like very challenging conversations about things that nobody's talking about. Honestly, for you guys to know, we hang out often on Zoom and we have these great conversations and we just thought, why are we not doing this on a podcast, right, gang?
Yes.
They should be recorded. Every time we chat, we're like, that's an episode.
That's an episode. So you may not know us, and so we're just going to introduce ourselves to y'all quickly. My name is Molly Carmel. I am a therapist and coach specializing in food addiction, eating disorders, and DBT. Like I think like my gals here, this is really a labor of love for me. And I always think of myself as what they would call like a wounded healer. I love that phrase, by the way. I don't find it negative. It's just that I had these wounds and I thought certainly with my eating, I had an enormous eating disorder, really started around the age of 4, which is wild to me because if you know a 4-year-old, it's pretty sad to think about a 4-year-old like binging, hiding, and hoarding food. That came from a lot of childhood trauma. My dad killed himself. My mom was completely like unavailable to do her work. I have a really close relationship with my mom now. We could do a podcast on the parents,
Yes.
yes.
she was just, like she was just so outmatched like by me. I can't even. And so, from like 4 till the age of 30, it was just so messy. It was just so messy. It's everything we talk about. I really had to swim through maggot-filled mud, and I was trying every single intervention possible. My weight went up to like 325 pounds, binging, throwing up all the things, throwing up, starving, every diet, every camp, every ashram, like you name it, I did it. And I just remember being at each one of them being like, there's no way this is going to work. And, they had an intervention for me. The intervention was you need to get bariatric surgery, which was like, shame. And I did. And I lost a good amount of weight doing that. But that was a medical intervention for a spiritual, emotional, medical condition. And so, like so many, which I learned because I lied about this for years, like so many, I gained almost all that weight back. And so I was an active eating disorders therapist, eating disorders and addictions therapist, actively eating disorder and addicted. Wild times. Do not recommend it. And down the road, while I was really at a very dark bottom, because I kind of was about to like lose everything, like my eating disorder was like seeping into my work and I was like getting caught like throwing up at work. Another thing I wouldn't recommend to anybody. And somehow I kind of discovered that I was addicted to food. I had never thought that. I'd never really thought, oh, maybe it's the quality of the food I'm putting in my body. I knew about diabetes, I knew about blood sugar. I just ignored it. Found that solution. At the time, my clinic that I was running in New York City called The Beacon was really rooted in low fat eating and calorie counting, which is what I was taught. And I switched the whole thing. And people started getting better. I got better. That was 15 years ago. And so I'm celebrating 15 years of abstinence in October, which is wild. I mean, wild. I mean, I'm one of those people like when I finish breakfast, sometimes I'm like, I cannot believe that that was nutritious, healthy. I'm full and I'm not going to obsess or eat till lunch. Like, and I have
Mhm.
to say, the work I feel like I do is just so wonderful. So that's me. I'm Molly. Love ya. Also
Love
wrote a
you.
one book called Breaking Up a Sugar, and I'm gonna write another one maybe
Just
one
one
day,
little
but
teeny tiny book.
Yeah.
one little book. Well, that's how we all know each
Footnote.
other from my tiny
It
book.
is. It is how we
All
know
right,
each
It
who's
is.
other.
going next,
All
team?
right,
Let's
I will go
Clarissa.
next. And I'm Clarissa Kennedy. I'm a registered social worker. I am also trained in addictions and mental health. And I recently took a course in being somatically informed self-compassion therapy, which for me was like game changer. And again, I think, for me, this has been a personal journey. And I think when you said wounded healer, like who is not in this space, right? Is this not why we are attracted to this? And that's exactly what brought me here, but not in a therapeutic way, in a way that I needed to fix myself. If I
Mm.
knew everything that I could learn about addictions, I would heal. And that's just not how the journey actually works. So certainly I too struggled with eating disorders through most of my life, anorexia, bulimia, laxative use. And I went for some interventions and some support, and I didn't really find any healing there. I was just kind of told, like, this is what it is, and you just have to learn to live with it. And so I lived with it, but I also found substance use. And so I struggled with, alcohol use disorder. I was in a major car accident, and then I got addicted to prescription pills. And so, again, the journey has been long and very messy. But through that, I then discovered like, okay, I really actually love the field of addictions and dove right in. And so then through that journey, I still had my own personal struggles because recovery takes time. We don't always get it right away. And I ended up being introduced to the concept of food addiction, which for me actually was a huge healing for my substance use disorder and specifically alcohol. And for that reason,
That's a podcast. We need to
yeah,
note that.
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah. And I think so part of my motivation has always been, if this is actually something that people with alcohol use disorder are also missing, and this could be another area of healing for them. And so since then, I've been a huge advocate of how can I get this information to the world? I do another podcast with Molly Painschab, the food junkies. And from like, I just can't even tell you the life I have today because of the healing journey I've been on, which, by the way, has been since I was 20. So that's like
Mhm.
15 plus years. And I'm not somebody who needs to count recovery days. I feel like as soon as I decided to make the change, that was my day one. And since then,
Mhm.
it's just been my journey. And so like the fact that I get to come here today and spend time with the two of you and share kind of the inside, what happens behind the scenes and people who work in the field, I feel like the it's just the most beautiful part of my journey so far. And I'm so excited about it.
Mm,
Yeah.
Great share.
Plus, we love you.
Yeah, great share. I
Of
feel
course, you
really
would feel that.
revitalized from this.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Molly Painschab, the other Molly. And my journey is a bit different than my co-hosts. I would say that I am a person who was born to one parent who had his own mental health and substance use disorder issues, and the other parent who definitely has an extreme personality disorder. And I would say I was never loved by my mother. And I say that with a smile on my face only because I've done the work, and it really, I don't have that emotional connection to it like I did for many years. And that's been a recent development in my recovery, that I can just say, you know, her job was to bring me earthside, and beyond that, it was all on me really to do the work and become the person that I am today. So I would say, you know, my parents divorced when I was young. I was the oldest of four, or I am the oldest of four. And being the target of that narcissistic abuse for my entire life really shaped who I became as not only the oldest child and the oldest daughter, which I think already kind of has its own like stereotypes that go along with it. But I like, much like the two of you mentioned, you know, that walking wounded, or that wounded healer at this point, right? I'm not walking wounded, but that I am a wounded healer, or have walked through healing those wounds. And I find my passion and my purpose to be in walking alongside others to do the same. Having my own history of things like polycystic ovarian syndrome, and trying to find a way to find health and vitality. Honestly, I only pushed as hard as I did because I could not get pregnant. I was able to finally get pregnant with my first daughter. I finally got pregnant with a second child, a second daughter as well. And then I wanted to be able to get on the floor with them and get back off the floor with them, all of that. And being a mental health and substance abuse therapist, it never occurred to me that food could also be an outlet of this disorder. And so when I found Vera Tarman's book, Food Junkies, I read it and I was like, oh my goodness, this could be a part of my story. And I need to also make sure that I'm addressing it with my clients, and working with those clients, or providing services for those clients who need it for food addiction, because it doesn't exist. The services at the time did not exist, or they were so few and far between, and they certainly didn't exist in Montana. That I could find, because I tried to find, and I'm a person with resources, right? I've got a great support system. I have health insurance, that kind of thing. And I couldn't find the services. So I wanted to make sure that those services existed. And so it's really just kind of grown from my own personal recovery, starting therapy at 22 years old, being sparked by my mentor, who we were doing this substance use disorder group. And she had, I don't remember what the term for it is, but, you know, like they lay out the roles that we play in the family, right? So like identified patient, the codependent individual, the hero, the lost child. You know, do you know what I'm talking about, Molly? Clarissa's shaking her head. She knows. And as we're doing this presentation, I realize my role in the family, in this family that was just so sick. And it's like coming to me. I'm 22 years old. I'm this baby sitting in this room full of all male felons who are on supervision for anything from murder to like hurting children to, you know, drug possession, right? So like it just kind of scanned the gamut. And I'm just sitting there, and I just start crying. And my boss was like, okay. And she like removes me, and she finishes group, and she comes and gets me in her office, and she's like, here's a name and number. I want you to go see this person. And I think we can start getting you the help that you need. Like she didn't even have to, she just knew. And so it's just been these moments like that along the way. People like her name is Melissa, people like Vera writing the book, people like meeting you, Molly, and your book, that just really continues to fuel me on my journey to help others walk this path, whatever that looks like for them. So I feel like I really lean more, I think my recovery leans way more mental health than it does necessarily substance use disorder, but certainly I've flirted with that. In my early 20s, I had to put down alcohol for a long time because it was very romantic for me. It was very like alluring. And my dad having that same substance use disorder, I could see how easy it would be to lay down in that darkness. And so yes, so along the way, I've picked things up and I've put things down, but certainly I probably lean more the PTSD, CPTSD recovery side of things. So I think I'll bring a slightly different perspective, but also having walked in the food world as well. So I'm just happy to be here with you folks and to have me included.
I was thinking too, like one thing I would want to also say, I love what you guys are, I just love everything we're saying. I just love us. Like I literally do.
True.
But I also want to say, and I hope we talk about this a lot on the show, like the thing that really shifted for me was one day I decided I would go to Hawaii. I think I was about 5 years abstinent and become a shaman.
Mm.
And before I went on that airplane, I was like I mean, I was dying, so I had to be, but I was a very rigid with my food, very rigid, like everything was very like rigid. And I remember getting off that plane, but again, I had like 5 years and being like, oh my God, I'm really never gonna write down my food again. Like, like I just had this moment where I was like, I don't know that there's anything wrong with my head. I
Mm,
think there might be something needing healing in my soul,
Yeah.
but I think I'm going to stop thinking there's something wrong in my head. I love what you're saying, Molly. Like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness. And I think I think what we also bring, the three of us, because I don't make friends easily and I love you guys, is like, I just think we bring like alternate ideas of how to do this.
Yeah.
mhm,
And it's really why we decided to start this podcast, wouldn't you guys say? Like,
Yes.
we work in this paradigm of food addiction that has a variance of modalities in it. There's people who are very rigid. And if you're listening and you're new to the food addiction world, when I say very rigid, I have a very high capital V and a very high capital R, and it's about 27 point, and it's its own eating disorder, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think. And
mhm,
I am rigid. I'm really opposed to it. It really hurts my heart when I meet people that have tried that because there's no way to win.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of doctrine in all these industries, coaching, whatever, that I just feel like we need to help you dispel so you can like find yourself, listener. Like that's all we want you
yeah,
to do.
That's it.
Molly, what did you say the other day when we were in that meeting to that guy? You're like, I'd be happy to not have a job anymore. What did you
Yeah,
say?
I did. I did say that I would be happy to not have a job anymore. I would prefer that my clients have critical thinking skills and self-determination and they're empowered to make their own decisions. I would prefer to not, right? They don't need me anymore because they have it in themselves.
Yeah. You're like, I'm trying to work myself out of a job. It was so
Yes,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
I am.
But I think that's all three of us. And I think the real reason we started this podcast is that, first of all, I don't know about you guys, but my love language is the truth.
Yes.
And I don't really like when I'm listening to someone and it's very scripted and it's very like, perfect. Like perfection kind of freaks me out. Like it just, I don't believe it. I don't feel authentic, whatever. Just listener, like I've had conversations with Molly and Clarissa, and they're like, this should be a podcast. I'm like, you guys know, like that's like a little too deep. We're
Yeah.
gonna have that
We're going
podcast.
to, we're
We're
doing
gonna
it.
talk.
I'm like, you guys know, like not there, not about
Right.
my depression. I don't need to put that on the internet. They're like, or maybe you do. So we're gonna go there. You're
Yeah.
gonna listen. So this truth is the love language. Truth is the healing. Truth is the serum to heal addiction, to heal. It's just all of it. And I think
Yeah.
there's something really powerful about hearing truth from people who also are like very successful coaches and therapists. And so, we just wanted to try this thing, and we're
Mhm.
going to make it real short for you, but we're going to try this thing and see if we can help you heal in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do wanna say that in my early recovery, I did actually need some of that rigidity,
Oh, me
and
too.
that I really, as I began to heal and I began to flourish and grow, that I could let some of that go, but I don't know if I could have got to where I am today in my relationship with food if I hadn't practiced some of that structure, because I didn't have that structure in the beginning, until I knew intuitively that like, oh, this actually doesn't feel that good. And it feels like I'm going to do it wrong. And which was the whole re-traumatizing thing from doing alcohol wrong, not getting into recovery. And I would say my main motivation is to really let people know recovery is not a quick fix, right? It
Yeah.
takes practice and we have to be allowed to practice, and it's going to be imperfect. And that imperfection is where we find parts and pieces of ourselves that maybe have been hidden from us for a long time. And
Mm,
like what I love about the word recover is it does mean to find something, right?
yeah,
And
I
so
love that too.
here, I hope that we can help guide people to find yourself rather than fix yourself, and that like to allow yourself the time to do so, and that it's going to be beautiful, it's going to be messy, it's going to be gross, it's going to be hard, it's going to be sad, and all of it's going to be worth it. Like that has been my experience. That's been the experience of the people I've worked with. And, here we just want you to know you're not alone in doing it, and that we're here to support you while you do it.
Mm, beautiful. Find yourself, don't fix yourself might need to be the tagline of our podcast.
I vote yes.
Hashtag find yourself.
The thing that we feel really strongly about, everybody, because we want you to stay and we want you to listen, and these are going to be, how do you like this one? These are going to be bite-sized little podcasts
Yeah.
where probably, I mean, as Clarissa's saying about recovery, it's a journey, you never know, but we're going to try to keep these under 30 minutes, just quick little bite-sized, like just having a little coffee date with your three besties, Molly, Clarissa, Molly. And I think we're going to just try to tell you the deepest truth and the dirtiest truth that we know every week, with some humor, with some fun, maybe with a little bit of like really getting it out of Molly C over here. And I'm like very excited about it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I certainly think that I also am really looking forward to our conversations where we also don't necessarily agree on things. And
Yeah.
we get to have like an open conversation where sometimes in the world, it's one way and then you get shut down, that we can actually start to understand like why I might think that way and why you might think that way and why maybe the listener feels that way. And then them allow themselves to listen to all the perspectives and say, hey, which one lands with me?
Well, you know what I was thinking while you were talking, because I'm also sober from alcohol. You guys, we have like literally like planned this podcast because we have so many conversations. And I was having this whole thing about 12 steps. And I was like, well, I was like raised in the 12 steps. And Clarissa was like, oh yeah, like that didn't work for me. If you guys were ever to sit with us, the amount of times that we say, well, that's a podcast. Well, that's a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, so there are so many topics but that's a great topic to talk about, right? Like, which is the recovery communities, like pro,
Absolutely.
not that you're con, but you have not had the same
No.
experiences. So I think and I think the other thing which Molly will talk to you about too, guys, like we want to really hear what you want us to be talking about
Yeah.
too. We want to make sure that we're doing right by you.
So
Yeah.
where could our listeners reach out and find us?
Yeah, if they want to email us, they can email us at asktheshrinks@foodshrinks.com.
That's a great email address.
It really is.
Yeah. And you can send us questions. You can send us topics you'd like us to speak about. You can send us like situations maybe you would like us to weigh in on,
Yeah.
get our thoughts and opinions on it. And knowing that, we wear multiple hats, we have walked these paths ourselves. We're also professionals. We also instruct others or teach others, mentor others, coming up in the field, so we do wear multiple hats. So again, just a nice way to get different perspectives on the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do like that this is an opportunity to let everybody know, like your counselor, therapist, helper is human, and to kind of show you that side of us as well. Because I think sometimes, we have this expectation even of ourselves to show up a certain way for our clients, and to just know like, hey, you don't need to put us on a pedestal. We are just human too, and here to our goal at the end of the day is really just see you, hear you, and validate your experience in this.
I have a question for the group. In your recovery from food addiction, have you had to like revamp it, but like in a really significant way? Like, have you had to, like right now, I just hired a coach that works for me because I trust her to help. Because I wouldn't say, because my food and my relationship with food has just gone to the fringes of where I know that if I don't ask someone for help, I'm going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
And that has happened to me 1, 2, 3 in 15 years, 4 times. like real help. Like I just literally am paying someone that works for me to meet me once a week. I'm like, so funny what I just said about the never writing down my food. I'm actually like sending her my food every day. I like
Yeah,
told
exactly.
her, I have to work with her for 3 months because I was actually in a 12-step meeting, and this woman said this really powerful thing. She was like, she couldn't get sober. And this guy said to her, listen, if you come in on your knees and you get off your knees too quickly. And I think that's what was happening to me. I just moved. I've had all of these like big emotional things happen in the last 3 months, and it's finally hit my food. For me, that's just a good sign. Like, oh, okay, let me go get
Yep.
some help. I mean, I'll be honest, it's very humbling to say like, hey, Liz, I need you to be, I need treatment. And that's why I said to her, would you be comfortable? And she's great, and she's not scared of me. And it's actually honestly, listen, everybody, like getting the help you need is the most
Mm.
comforting validity. I haven't been in treatment for a long time. It was like the most comforting thing that like ever happened to me. But has that
Yeah.
happened to you guys in your recoveries? Like you've had to like, because Marty Lerner talks about that a lot, that eating disorders are kind of marked by points of lapse. I find them
Oh,
growth points, but has that
Mm-hmm.
happened to
yeah,
you guys?
that's definitely happened with me. It's also happened with alcohol. And so I am, certainly, and again, it's a signal. It's
Mhm.
not a failure. And I used to see it, it used to be framed to me as, the relapse and,
They
that
count
return to
over.
day one. And, now it's like, okay, what's going on in my life that I'm not seeing? Because there's a lot I'm unconscious to, even though I'm going to therapy, even though, is it that I'm working too much? Am I in a new relationship that maybe is not serving me? And I'm doing a lot of those same old behaviors
Mhm.
that, and so it may be, I've switched, I can't even tell you, I don't know to recommend this, but I've certainly had a multitude of therapists.
Yes.
Sometimes I'll do 3 times and I'll talk to Molly and be like, this is not working for me. Like, and she's had a therapist for so many years. And I'm like, how do you do that? That feels very committed and like suffocating to me. And it's like, well, she really knows me. So again, it's like and then I'll catch myself and I'll be like, oh, I'm trying to do that quick fix thing again.
Mhm.
They're going to give me my aha and I'm going to walk away and I'm going to be okay. And that's not the work. And so absolutely, I've had times where I've had certainly smaller food plans and larger food plans where I've been on trips and I've had to like plan and prepare and organize everything. And then we just got back from a 5-weeker and I'm like, I can go anywhere right now and order something.
Mm.
I'll be just fine. So yeah, that's just life, isn't it?
Mm. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I honestly, yes, but I feel like in diet culture and I think even in the food addiction world, no.
It's
I
not
think there's
allowed.
this real
Right.
belief
Yeah.
that you're done. And that it's a liability to ask for help if you have time. And I think the lesson I learn every 3 or 4 years is like I get it really loud and it softens me and makes me compassionate, but I don't think everybody knows that. I think they
Yeah.
think it's a moral failure. What about
Yeah.
Right.
you, Mal?
Yeah, I would say probably not major changes with the food. I definitely have periods of weighing and measuring, periods of not so much, just, like kind of like in those shaky times, like you were saying, Molly, like transitions where, maybe something big's going on and I'm like, ooh, this is maybe getting like emotional portions now.
Mhm.
Kind of deal. But I would say, yes, I've definitely done major shakeups in my recovery in general. So as Clarissa said, I've been with my therapist, this current therapist, many years. My oldest daughter will be 12 in December, and I know I've been with her long before that. So probably about 15 years. Yeah. And Clarissa's like, how do you do that? I'm like, honey, I'm committed. Like, I'm married to my high school sweetheart. Like, we've been together for
Oh, it's like in
23
your
years.
DNA.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's
Okay.
23 because it's
You
safety.
move in.
It's
You
safety.
move in.
That's it.
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah. Okay.
Taurus.
Okay.
Like we plant
I'm
ourselves.
more
Like this is
Clarissa. Yeah.
there we go. So but things that I've done along the way, right? Like there have been times where I've shaken it up. I've tried EMDR. That was not for me. So I moved on to something else. I've been to intuitives, I did neurofeedback for just about a year. And that was such a big change. I went and did a therapeutic dose of psilocybin and had this whole experience and this whole journey, which also shook things up for me. And so, I guess what I want to say is that just because I did these things, I'm not advocating that everybody go do them. I've been in therapy since I was 22 years old. I've you want to talk about like snot and tears and, almost like crying to the point where you're almost throwing up, like real, like deep, messy, dirty, raunchy stuff to just get that worked through. But things come along, things pop up, or things aren't quite where you want them to be. Sometimes you have to do some of these more what we might consider like out of the box thinking things. And if you guys know me at all, or if anybody knows me, and certainly Clarissa does, I'm a rule follower, but I'm also a rebel when it comes to being told who I have to be, what box I have to put myself in, what definition I have to walk this earth under. I will blow it up. Like I will stand on the bridge as it burns, just to prove to you that I do not have to be any of those things. And so I do think about these things, these extreme things. They don't feel so extreme to me, because to me they feel like they're life affirming, or they're like validating to like my inner demons a little bit, right? Like they need to be validated too. So yes, I would say those things have happened along the way. And I think, like you have said, they're learning opportunities and growth edges.
Growth opportunity.
Yeah.
I can already tell, because I can tell because I said to her the 3-month thing. And my first thing, I was like, yeah, like I only need like 10 minutes of your time, and like probably really quick. And then something came over me and I was like, I think you're going to get off your knees too quickly, And so that's, well, anyway, that's kind of what we're here to talk to you guys. It felt like I've needed to share that truth on our first episode, so you can follow my treatment.
Good. I'm excited to hear and the journey, right?
Yeah. And I see a million intuitives. So that's our first episode. Can you believe it?
That's it.
We did it.
And I'm so grateful for everyone who decided to tune in. And we have a Instagram handle at Food Shrinks. We have personal handles. Molly and Clarissa have their handles, and we will put all of that in the delicious show notes. And we would live and die for you to subscribe and share and rate positively this podcast, because we're your besties and we love you.
Yeah. And it'll help us grow and help us share this with others too, that it doesn't have to be that one way.
That's right. If someone tells you that there's one way, run away.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely.
We'll see you next time, y'all.
Thanks for listening to Food Shrinks. Quick reminder, this podcast isn't a substitute for your professional medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider for guidance suited to your needs. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach others on the recovery journey. Take care, and remember, freedom with food is possible. See you next time.